President Trump is defending his phone call with Vladimir Putin, a call in which he congratulated the Russian president on his re-election, but apparently didn't mention accusations that Russia used a nerve agent to poison a former Russian spy in the UK. He also apparently failed to mention Russia's election interference. But we're learning tonight that one of the things the president did mention reportedly blindsided his senior advisors. Join me now, CNN National Security Advisor General Michael Hayden, CIA Director under President George W. Bush. Thank you, sir. Good to have you on. Appreciate it. There's new reporting tonight from the Washington Post that Trump's senior advisors were thrown when he told Putin that he expected to meet with Putin soon, and several officials are telling the Post that there's no plan for a meeting. That wasn't in the briefing material. Does it sound like the president has his own Russia agenda here?
I think the president is spontaneous, unstructured, doesn't take to coaching very well. I think that just came out, Don. And now, like many things, you get this statement from the chief executive, and now the staff either has to walk him back from it or implement it. And we'll see which of those two dynamics apply in this particular case. You know, meeting with Putin isn't quite as bad as meeting with Kim Jong-un without preconditions, but it does seem to give Putin credit he doesn't deserve, particularly after some recent things that we know Putin did.
Yeah. General Hayden, former CIA Director John Brennan says Russia may have something on Trump. I want you to take a look at this.
I think he's afraid of the president of Russia.
Why?
Well, I think one can speculate as to why. That the Russians may have something on him personally that they could always roll out and make his life more difficult. The Russians, I think, have had long experience with Mr. Trump and may have things that they could expose.
Something personal, perhaps?
Perhaps.
Do you think that's a real possibility, General, that Putin has something on Trump?
Look, anything's possible, Don, but John admitted quite candidly that he was speculating here. So let me just try to parse out some potential explanations for why the president doesn't seem to have it within him to criticize Russia or Vladimir Putin. You know, when I got to a communist country in the mid-1980s, communist Bulgaria, my predecessor warned me my first day there. He said, you know, you'll be a lot better off here if you do not attribute to malice that which can equally be explained by incompetence. And you know, there could be a fair amount of incompetence when it comes to the president making it up in terms of his relationship with Putin and with Russia. There are a lot of things he doesn't know, Don, and more frighteningly, it appears that he doesn't know that he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. Now, so this may just simply be bad performance. Now, if you go over here and talk about what John was talking about, how are the Russians attempting to influence him? We've got this little mnemonic that we use, MICE, M-I-C-E, money, ideology, compromise, and ego. And if I'm looking at those four approaches, if I'm the Russians looking at Donald Trump, I don't know that I would instinctively go to compromise. You know, it's awfully hard to embarrass the president. He blew right through that Access Hollywood tape, hardly without blinking. If I was going to try to work to influence our president, if I were a Russian, I think I'd go to ego. And right. we have seen Putin go out of his way to praise President Trump.
Were you surprised by the former director Brennan's comments, General?
I was a bit, but look, John is a very straightforward guy. He speaks his mind. I've had, John's a good friend, but he and I have had some sharp conversations because he's very candid.
Yeah. So, General Hayden, we pulled just a sampling of the president's tweets, and we all know that there are many more. But he attacks Democrats, Republicans, he attacks Mexico, China, Iran. He's dissed our allies like the UK. He's attacked Nordstrom. He's attacked me and others in the media. But there's never criticism of Putin or Russia. What explains the president's pro-Russian views?
Don, you go back to that little mnemonic, M-I-C-E. Let's go to I. Ideology. And here I'm not talking about post-Marxism or anything. I'm talking about a kindred spirit between the President of the United States and the President of Russia when it comes towards a trend towards autocracy, the strong man, that kind of approach to governance. I really do think there's a convergence in terms of how President Trump would like to govern and how President Putin does govern. And so because of, what's the right word here, Don, respect, admiration, the president doesn't seem to want to go out and attack someone whom he seems to actually have a great deal of respect for.
I just want to read some of the president's tweets from this morning, okay, defending his congratulating of Putin and get your take on it. I call President Putin of Russia to congratulate him on his election victory in past. Obama called him also. The fake news media is crazed because they wanted me to excoriate him. They are wrong. Getting along with Russia and others is a good thing, not a bad thing. They can help solve problems with North Korea, Syria, Ukraine, ISIS, Iran, and even the coming arms race. Bush tried to get along, but didn't have the smarts. Obama and Clinton tried, but didn't have the energy or chemistry. Remember, reset, peace through strength. General Hayden, there's a lot to pull apart in that
There
tweet.
really is.
I mean, but, you know, what stands out to you?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, he blames a list of people for bad Russian-American relations. None of them are Vladimir Putin, which is really, really quite striking.
Yeah.
And then he blames you and your colleagues, Don, for making war on him for trying to make nice with the Russians. You guys didn't write in capital letters, "Don't congratulate him." That came from his own intimate personal staff, the staff that he hired.
Yeah, and we didn't congratulate Vladimir Putin on the phone call, but it's just interesting to me when you have, you know, highly respected people, and, you know, listen, I respect all of our presidents, President Clinton, President Obama, President Bush, who I'm sure when they were in office worked their damnedest to try to figure out a way to negotiate with Russia. He's attacking them rather than attacking someone who is supposed to have just killed someone with a chemical weapon in the UK.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You talked about the tweet. I think fact of call was the first mistake. It's too soon after the attempted murders in London, and then making the call without bringing those up at all, I think, is another unforced error on our part, Don.
General, always appreciate it. Thank you so much.